Okay, hi everybody. Welcome to the City of Gig Harbor Design Review Board virtual meeting. Today is July 8th, 2021, and we're going to start out with roll call. I'll begin. Brett Marlowe DeSantis.
John Ashlock.
Nels Peterson.
Marlene Drucker.
Does Darren have audio?
Yeah.
Darren, can we hear you?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
There you go. And then from staff, Carl DeSimas.
Michelle Thomas.
Okay, awesome. Okay, did anyone get a chance to look over the minutes of May 27th and June 10th? No one looks like they did. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve the minutes?
Push
I
it
approved
off.
it just for the earlier one. I wasn't here for the second one, so I couldn't approve it.
Okay, well, Michelle, are you cool if we put that off till next time?
Yeah, then you'll have 3 to approve.
I think we can handle it next time. Okay, thanks so much. On our agenda today for formal review will be the Gig Harbor Peninsula Historical Society. Before we begin, this is an open public meeting. So we want to, will we be having public comment today, Michelle? Yes. Okay, and you'll let me know when? Okay, cool. Okay, so we will have that. Usually that happens after our applicant has a chance to present and before the DRB goes into full discussion. So before we get into it, we want to make sure that everyone feels like the people on the DRB are fair to this issue. So is there any reason that any DRB members may have to recuse themselves from this project?
No.
Brett, let me chime in. This is Darren.
Go for it.
We've been familiar with this project. We've actually discussed the project with Harbor History Museum. It's sort of an active project pursuit from my architectural company here in Gig Harbor. So I'm familiar with the project, but we haven't communicated about the project since David and his group were selected to do the project. So I'm just putting that out there. We don't really know anything about the project at this stage.
Thank you, Darren, for your transparency. I will also say that I have not worked on this project, but I do. I am a lease rentee from the Harbor History Museum. So just put that out there so you know that I'm there. I have not worked on this project though. So is there anyone who has any issue with any of the DRB members from the public or from the project for appearance of fairness issues?
I do not believe we do.
Okay, thank you. Okay, then we will continue forth. Would staff like to announce this project?
Certainly. Thank you, Chair. Carl DeSimas with staff. So this project that's coming before you tonight is really this is a pre-application meeting. So the code allows an applicant to come before the DRB prior to really finalizing or formalizing their design to kind of get a sense of what the design review board is interested in relative to the project, and or provide some feedback to the applicant so that they can go back and sort of work on those items, or at least have some expectation of items that they may need to be bringing back before the DRB for a formal decision. So tonight's meeting is a pre-application meeting before the DRB. There will be no decision made this evening. There'll be no recommendation that will come out of this meeting. This will simply be sort of a discussion and an opportunity for the applicant to bounce ideas off of the board and get some feedback. So just want to make that clear. Darren, did
Thank
you
you, Carl.
did you have a question? Oh, sorry, Chair.
Oh, no, thank you for the introduction. Is there any further introduction or should I turn it over to our applicants?
I'd just like to say a couple of words if I could,
Yeah,
just about staff's review of what has been presented. This project was approved back in 2007, 2008. So this was part of the original site plan and building permits. And what they're proposing to do is enclose the area around the Shenandoah. That's at the rear of the Harbor History Museum. And that was always contemplated to be done as part of the original approvals. However, they knew at the time that they wouldn't be able to afford to get the full project done. I think it was an affordability issue. I'm surmising there a little bit. And so they had always planned to phase the project and come back and do this at a later time. Most of what they're proposing is consistent with what was originally approved as far as siding and color, window treatments. Almost everything is pretty much the same. There are just a couple of items that staff noted that were that may need to be reviewed by design review board and maybe will need some discussion this evening to provide some direction. One of the things that we noted is that the glazing has been reduced, and they noted that in their materials, and they reduced the glazing in order to meet the adopted 2018 Washington State Energy Codes. So that will be something that will have to be reviewed as far as the solid void ratios, of course, under 1799 530B. So they'll have to show that the glazing will still meet those requirements, and or have to bring it back before the board for a recommendation. There's also some circular windows that are proposed on the Donkey Creek facing facade, and the code doesn't necessarily support irregularly shaped windows, except they can be included as sort of a limited accent, but they shouldn't be a prominent window form. And so it's interesting. Maybe they can't be seen very well, but all of the facades on this building are prominent facades by definition. And so it is something that we have to at least address and determine, how to go about either approving those or whether or not they need to be reviewed again by the DRB. So I think that's something to consider. The windows that they're proposing are like the windows that were already approved on the rest of the building, it appears. I'm not familiar enough with the project or the site to know how those were approved previously. They don't appear to comply with the design manual. However, if they were approved before, then it seems like something that could probably be approved again, but it may need a design review board recommendation in order to do so. And then let's see, lastly, I will say, the siding, there's a statement made that the siding is the same as what was previously used, which is a board and bat, which would comply with the manual. It's just hard to tell on the drawings that have been provided how if it is indeed the same. So I think it's just a question that needs to be asked. Everything else in the plans, as far as what we've been provided, looks fairly consistent, and I wouldn't say we would need more information to really make a full determination on whether or not it would need further review and recommendation by the board. But overall, it looks pretty good. I did want to just show really quickly thought this might be helpful for a little context. It kind of, as everybody can see that, this is the area that we're talking about. I'm sure everybody's pretty familiar with it. But that's the Shenandoah in there. And so really what they're proposing to do is just enclosing this back half of the Harbor History Museum. And you can really see it pretty well from over here as well. Whoops, wrong way, sorry. Disorient everybody here. This is the Midway School. So this is the area we're talking about, all three sides to fully enclose. And really it looks like they're just carrying over this same siding across the building. I think with that, Chair, I'd turn it over to the applicant to provide a project review or project overview of
I
what
know,
they're
Carl,
looking
there were a lot of locks missing on that bridge right there in that picture. That's gotta be pretty old.
Yeah, right. Who knows what it looks like now? Yeah, that's a good point.
Okay, applicants, please go ahead and introduce yourself. The floor is yours.
Sure. It's David Bow Architects, and with us is Stephanie, the director of Harbor History Museum. So if there's any questions regarding, we already had some on what's going on at the museum. She's here to help to answer any of those questions. So we basically confirmed the staff report because I had the privilege of going before the DRB. And I think Member Highland was the only one who saw all the DRB applications we did, because we had quite a few at the beginning with conditional use permits and building height, because it exceeded the building height because it had to accept the Shenandoah. And so building color, I know we had a good 2.5 hours or so discussing temporary fencing around the Maritime Gallery, which I never thought we could spend 2.5 hours discussing fencing, but this is to remove that. So that is to get rid of the temporary fencing and put in the permanent enclosure. As far as why it wasn't enclosed before, it had to do with the repair, maintenance, and restoration of the Shenandoah itself. If it had been enclosed initially, there would have been very expensive exhaust systems having to be put, I guess it's cost related, but there would have been huge exhaust systems and hoods that would have to be put in because of being an enclosed area. And so given the fact that it's maritime, there is an allowance to allow it, those things as long as they're undercover. So this was really deferred until the Shenandoah restoration got to a point where it no longer was creating dust or those kind of things that would require a sophisticated ventilation system. So now it's getting to the point where it's real an artifact, and now we need to protect that artifact by enclosing it. And also, it's in the wintertime when it's raining and the wind's blowing. It's only for the hardy who want to go out into the Maritime Museum. So this seemed the opportune time to enclose it. So I hope that may answer some questions. I can, if you let me share, I can pull up some drawings if that's, if you want me to, or maybe for discussion or not, or whether, Carl, you want to run that. It's up to you guys.
You do have sharing capability.
Oh, I know, but that puts me on the IT bubble of having to actually make it work. Screensaver is just happenstance that it happens to be. There was a question on glazing, and we did not include this in our application. So it's more for your information, but we did a full analysis of the amounts of transparency we have in the existing building compared to the new energy code. And I don't know if the new energy code came into effect in February 1st of this year. And I don't know how much of you have come before you, people saying, well, we want to put windows in, but we can't. And we're to that point a little bit as we calculated all the windows that we have and figured out what percentage we are, and realized that if we did indeed just glaze the whole thing, we would not be able to meet the energy code. And the 30% is the transition, because windows right now have to meet a U value currently that doesn't really exist. It's one of the anomalies of the code, is that they've specified things that aren't really readily available. So we're really having to put a Herky window system in to make that work. So that's a little background on why the glazing isn't necessarily as much as we had hoped. As far as trying to figure out which exhibits.
Hey, David, could I ask, will it meet 25 to 30% of the prominent facades for glazing, do you think?
You know, that's a good question. Well, I know on the Donkey Creek side, absolutely.
Yeah.
The other two, probably okay on the Bay side. I would say the side that would be the most challenging would be the North Harborview side, only because so much of the North Harborview side doesn't have any windows at all. And that's the lower portion. So let me see if I can, fumbling here. Well, I can open them all up, I guess. We'll see what we get. I don't know my exhibits. There we go. First time. So this is the water side. This is the Bay side, and you can see, yeah, it's gonna be nip and tuck if that's 25 to 30%. I think definitely here that will work okay. It's this side over here because we have so much of this existing building that doesn't have any windows because that's their curatorial storage area. So it depends how we calculate. If we calculate just the Maritime Gallery, then I'm sure we're there. But if we actually calculate the whole facades, that would be challenging. As Carl discussed, I'll jump down the portholes. This was to add a little bit of fun to the building and along the walkway, and people are walking the walk someplace they can go up and maybe peek in, and maybe we adjust those heights so you don't have to be too tall to peek in and see what's going on. So it's when the museum's closed. That was the concept there. As far as the openings themselves, tried to not overthink it. Divided the big openings all very similar manner with using the power of three. So we've got everything broken into thirds horizontally and thirds vertically, with the smaller ones square, and try to get more verticality and to match some of the other windows that are existing on the building. So yeah, that's it. Siding will match exactly what's there, board and bat, no change. Same color, no change to the color. So that remains the same. And yeah, that's really about it. Just wanted to get your guys' input because I know that it's best to get your input early and not try to convince you later and defend something that you guys are hearing. And you're a little defensive here. So we like to just bring it forward, see what comments you have, and then we can come back.
Okay. Sound like a smart man. Okay. Let's go ahead and open it up to public comment before we go ahead and open it up to the board. Is that okay, Michelle?
Yes, and if public would like to make comments. Oh, I think it's *9. I just forgot. Let me look here. Yeah, if they press *9, it will allow them to raise their hand and they can make comment. And I see no hands raised.
Okay, so are we closing that then?
Can I make a comment?
Absolutely.
I just wanted to add a couple of things. They did a great job explaining the project, but you know, we're designing an exterior, but we're also designing an interior. And I just wanted to make note about the portholes because they are reminiscent of portholes in a fishing vessel that we know and love here in Gig Harbor. They also provide a sneak peek into exhibit space that that side of the vessel is actually being restored to. It's about 1970s appearance. So it will actually be rigged as if it's in mid catch. So it's specifically designed so that there will be a little bit of intrigue. Even in closed hours, there will be something for people to see. So we wanted to take that into consideration and offer that opportunity to have some lower viewing areas that are reminiscent of the portholes in a fishing vessel, as well as being able to just get a sense of like, wow, this is a really cool sneak peek, because we have so many people walk by on the walking trail behind the museum that, and we are working really hard to try to kind of turn the museum inside out and really create experiences even when the museum is closed. So I just wanted to add that little piece in terms of the way that we're thinking about this project. And I do have a question, I mean, about the glazing. Is it a requirement that we get to a certain percentage, or, I mean, that's the part of all of this that I'm not clear on, but I'm sure we can discuss that in greater length, so.
Thank you. Carl, did you want to answer that now, or do you want me to go ahead and open it up to the board?
I could answer it now, Chair, if you like.
Go for it.
Yeah, so it is a requirement of let's see, the code section is 1799-530B, and this is provisions that are in the design. Sorry, in this for sites that are within the historic district. I'm just going to pull it up here and read it for everyone. So yeah, 1799-530. Window Design Historic District. The following standards are applicable to all development within the historic district. And B is conform to solid void ratio requirements. It says generally, windows and doors shall constitute 25 to 30% of prominent facade wall planes. In situations where this is not practical, the masonry facade option described in Gig Harbor Municipal Code 1799-420B may be considered. So it is a requirement in answer to your question, but the manual also offers some alternatives if you can't meet that requirement. So it's not necessarily a project killer in that sense. There are opportunities to built into the manual that would allow you to work around the issue.
Thank you, Carl.
Chair, may I respond to that quickly?
Yeah, I could also help you out and say that we are Design Relief Board as well as Design Review Board. But you may answer it, David.
Well, there's two things. The masonry option probably, well, that's kind of assuming that the reason you can't do the solid void is because you're doing a masonry building or something, an industrial building. And we would not be putting masonry on this building because we'd be introducing a new material that had no relationship to anything on the site, So, but we would, we can do the calculations and we can show how generally we're getting close to that. So I've also forgot to mention that one of the real early design concept which drove the whole building design was that view that you showed, Carl, from North Harborview Drive at the little plaque, looking over through the Midway School and seeing the Shenandoah and seeing the mountain, in the back. That view, so like from a glazing standpoint, it's like we got to make sure that view is maintained, so it still is like a little crystal vitrine that has this artifact in it. And so that's why also the decision of where glazing went was really part and parcel of trying to maintain that for the public up above, and then as Stephanie eloquently discussed, the portholes down below.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, at this time, I'd like to open it up to the Design Review Board for discussion.
How big are the portals? What's the diameter of the circle?
About 4 feet, 4 to 5 feet. So
big
they're
guy.
big, but it's a big building. If you put an actual porthole in, it would look, like you went and grabbed one off a boat someplace. So we're trying to make it proportional to the building.
Why only 3 and not 4? I mean, when I looked at it, I don't mind them at all, but it's like the gap down in the bottom left. Is that like a stairway or building? Or
Correct. There's a stairway that's coming. Part of the, we didn't talk about the interior, but part of the interior is to redo the stairway and actually put a lift in, and it'll be inside. So we hope it'll work. But a stairway coming up from the main ramp, coming up to the Shenandoah back deck, and then have a stairway wind its way down around the back corner. And that's why there isn't another porthole then. And then I'm a big fan of threes. So 3 always works as a composition factor.
I totally agree with your view portion of it. My wife and I drove past there today, and she knew this project was coming up. And one of her comments that, God, hope you don't block the view of the boat in the mountain as we drive by. So I'm glad you clarified that portion of the place.
In reality, it will be diminished because, of course, glass will reflect, and it's be clear glazing. There won't be any anything on it that is going to, put the mirror or darken it down or anything like that. But also keeping, we couldn't do just butt glazing and make it look really like a crystal showcase, because then that would be totally dissimilar to everything in the museum. So trying to strike that happy medium where we're still getting the maximum transparency we can, meeting the energy code, and keeping the best the view we can.
And I'm guessing the siding material is going to be the same. I know you said board and batten, but
Yeah, it's hardy siding, board and batten, and that'll be all identical. And that'll be the only siding that's there. No metal siding, which we do have in the front of the building and around some of the back areas, but it'll be just the board and bat painted the barn red.
We didn't talk much about the lighting. So is the lighting going to be basically the same as the rest of the building that you already have, or is it going to be higher or different? Or
same light fixtures, as close as we can to getting the exact same light fixtures, and they're down lights going along wherever we're using them, and they're not overly done, but it is pretty dark back there currently. And the thought was to give some good lighting, but it's all down lighting, shielded completely from going up. So, and there's in one of the exhibits shows that exact light that's being proposed, which is on the other side of the building. They're big, but it's a big building.
All I have. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Anyone else?
Go ahead, Nels.
Sorry, I had to get myself off of mute there. Is the whole building going to get repainted, or have you accommodated how you're going to get the matching board and bat to be the same color when it's actually installed?
With the we have a kind of a fortunate aspect of things, is that there's not much board and batten that is contiguous with the Maritime Gallery. There's really none on the North Harbor View side, very little, just where the roofs are meeting, and on the same thing on the water side. So we'll have a great way to blend that right in and repaint some of those surfaces. So
because you won't have the opportunity to see both side by side. So yeah,
correct.
Okay,
they'll change on an inside corner, and
perfect.
Yeah, and the board and batten is hardy. It's not discontinued. It's pretty standard stuff.
Yep. No, I don't have much to say other than it's just a bummer that the energy code is starting to restrict down our glazing. So, but no, I'm okay with what's presented so far.
Thank you, Nels.
Chair, I just threw this up so that you could see the sort of getting to what Nels was talking about and what David was describing, and that we have some different siding material along the front side here in this, and then here's the light fixtures that they would be trying to mimic, as well as the board and bat that would be used around the
Thank
enclosure.
you. That must be for someone else, because I stare at this building all day long.
Yeah, I know you know it well.
Yeah. Marlene or Darren?
Go ahead, Marlon.
I'll just say that I'm, I I like what I'm seeing. I think it's very favorable for the project. I think you're handling the glazing well. I think it's sensitive to all the sides that people walk by, and I don't find the circles too gimmicky or cutesy. I think they actually are probably going to work pretty well. So I'm cool with it.
Thanks, Marlene. You look cool tonight. Okay, Darren, you're up.
Yeah, I don't think I really have too much from a comment standpoint. I think the, you know, if we were talking about percentages of the glazing, I would really look at, you know, David's elevations and say the ones that are colored are actually sort of the, you know, the surfaces or the planes where we're actually doing the infill. And it looks like on every one of those three sides, you know, the glazing that we are proposing, or they are proposing is, you know, exceeds 25%. So in one sense, I'd say if the building exists now and nobody has heartburn with it, you know, the new addition that we're going to propose to put in there is actually going to increase the glazing, you know, significantly, you know, on those facades. So I don't have any issue with the percentage. So I wouldn't fight it. You know, it is, you know, I think it's probably as much an economical decision probably to, you know, go more traditional into real sophisticated, you know, glazing system. You know, obviously considering the, you know, the museum and, you know, and funding the project and all those things that, you know, they probably discuss ad nauseum, you know, it's probably a good choice. I don't think that you'll really be able to see through the building. You know, the reality of it is over that depth, it's just, it would have to be extraordinarily bright in the building. And when it is that way, you know, considering, you know, maybe what the daylight levels are on the outside, it'll be dark. So I think that you probably won't, you know, capture that mountain view through there very much, I don't think. But, you know, the building's not very wide as it is. You can take a couple steps to the left on the bridge and you can see the mountain just fine. So, you know, I think it'll still work from within the building when you're up on the upper level that you ascend to actually access the Shenandoah. I think you'd be able to, you know, still capture those outward views from the building. So I think it works well. You know, and I think it's complementary to the building, you know, as an existing structure. You don't get to see the, you know, the creek side elevation very much. You know, it's just really a quick drive-by peekaboo view unless you really kind of slow down, you know, and take the sights, you know, when you're walking, you know, or you're going down the estuary and kind of, you know, walking around the backside of the creek. Then obviously then, you know, the elevation is in full view and pretty dominant. So at any rate, you know, I don't have any concern, you know, with what's being proposed at all.
Thank you, Darren.
Okay, well, I don't have to reiterate what everyone else said. I think it's a, you know, clean, sensible design. My only request is make sure that those big portholes are fully accessible to people, you know. I think they're a really cool idea. And yeah, I think that the board, it sounds like, could get behind relief of any of those percentages that you need to meet. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. Do you have, David or Stephanie, any questions of us that you feel like we haven't addressed?
The only question I have, and it's more of a procedural question, but we'll definitely do the calculations showing the solid void. And when we submit, you know, I'll show you all the details, which are just grabbing the details from the original project and updating them to show the air barrier and those kind of things that we have to do now. But I didn't know if after a pre-app, if there's not any issue, if staff can do the administrative design review, or because it's a prominent parcel, it still has to go back. Not that we have any problem coming in front of you, because it's we like doing that. No, I really do. So I as Darren will attest, we've had some fiery, especially at the beginning of what this museum was going to look like. And I must admit, going through that made the project better. You know, you come out of there as a hothead and you're kind of going, and then you kind of, well, wait a minute, there's a good point there. You know, let's figure this out. So I just didn't know if there was a way that I don't know if you can even do a motion at a pre-app, but the opportunity to just have staff review it based on the discussion and the direction.
Unfortunately, I don't think that's possible, but I'll let Carl tell you that.
That's Chair. Yeah, that's correct. It is not possible. So this really is meant to just be sort of a discussion and provide you with some guidance. But if there's any, if there are any alternatives that are necessary for the project, we'll have to come back to the DRB. And so, you know, as long as we're seeing and talking about most of those here now, that's the hope, is that then when we do come back, it's pretty easy discussion, but it allows the public as well some opportunity to voice their concerns, because that, you know, an actual meeting then is noticed to the public, and so they have an opportunity to comment and come and make their comments heard in front of the board. So that's really the purpose then of having another meeting.
Okay, so Stephanie, no loud parties until we get through the next.
Right.
Okay. Well, then applicants, you're good to go.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much for your time.
Michelle, do we have any other things on discussion?
Katrina wanted me to bring up the Open Public Meetings Act training. We still do not have a certificate for Darren or Brett, and Marlene's expires in December.
Okay.
If she wants us
So
to
this
do
is a
it,
slap on the hand for us to go get our training done.
yeah, she wants us to do it during one of the meetings if it's not done soon.
Okay. And this is the one where you press the link and I'm pretty sure I did, but you couldn't figure out how to turn in that thing at the end of the, anyways.
Yeah, there's a link to fill out the certificate, and then you just send me the certificate with the date on it. And
why don't you give us one more shot at doing it
Okay.
ourselves by sending out a fresh email now that you've slapped our hands? How's that sound, guys?
that sounds good to me.
Okay.
I did mine, so I'm clear now.
Oh, come on. Stop bragging.
I'm not doing any. December is pretty far.
Okay. Is there anything else beyond that?
We have the next meeting is the sewer lift station and Burnham Drive Apartments.
And that was on the 22nd?
Yep.
I'm gonna be in town, Brett, so I'm gonna offer that up now. I'll have to
Okay.
miss that one.
So you're not available? Is that what you said, Darren?
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
Sorry, what's the date of that, Michelle?
July 22nd.
And Nels, are you out after this month?
Yes, I am out after this month.
Oh, I'm sad to hear that.
I know.
Tommy,
Okay.
too, right?
Tommy's out. She's already out.
Yeah.
So
that's
there
correct.
is, there are 2 people coming up on Monday who are applying through the candidate board review. And those are 2 people from the planning commission.
Mhm.
And I think they're up for Tommy's spot, and then Nell's spot will be announced afterward or something like that, right? Is that how that works?
I believe they
think-
announced both.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
That's right. We've announced both, but we can only have one planning commissioner on the design.
That's what I was
review board
wondering.
Unless they can meet one of the other criteria for membership.
Well, how many planners can you have, guys? Just
Only-
torturing you, Carl.
It only takes
Um,
one. It only takes one to make a mess.
Okay, well, does anyone else have anything else to discuss? Okay, then do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Also,
Oh, Darren got it. Okay.
no,
Okay.
All
Okay. All in favor?
Hi.
Okay, have a good night.
Good
Have a
night.
good
you guys.
Yep.
Good night, everybody.